sounds of the evil horde with Hang 'em Again. That was E1M1, of course, remix of the Doom soundtrack. Yes, you can download it. Not only that, you can get the whole lot, the whole shebang, as it were. Doom.ocremix.org. That's doom.ocremix.org, the Dark Side of Phobos remix album. Go and get it now. It's free. Just do it. It's amazingly cool. It's that simple. Right, before that, of course, you heard the sound of Camelot, Nothing Ever Dies, dedicated to paladins and those attempting to kill paladins the world over. Eesh. Right, before the break, we were talking about Zul'Gurub. So we're going to continue to talk about Zul'Gurub until I run out of Zul'Gurub-related anecdotes and comments to make. Sounds like a good idea to me. Okay. Now, back to where we were before. And that was Zul'Gurub's difficulty level. Now, we're pretty much concluded that there's one of two possibilities. Either Zul'Gurub was designed too difficult for its intended audience, or Zul'Gurub is supposed to be a trial by fire in an attempt to prepare you for stuff like Molten Core. I would tend to go with the latter. Now, my previous guild struggled with Zul'Gurub. Ever since Zul'Gurub was released, we only managed to down the first 4 bosses. And yes, I have been informed that Mandakir, Bloodlord Mandakir, is not in fact one of the aspects. So that's fair enough. We downed the spider, we downed the snake, we downed the bat, and we downed the Bloodlord. Now, that's all well and good. However, it took us that long to do it, and in that time we managed to get to Ragnaros. Now, it has to be said, we were doing Molten Core before we started Zul'Gurub, but we didn't make a lot of progress. However, on the first attempt at Zul'Gurub, we took down the bat and the snake after many, many wipes. A few weeks later, I believe we took down Luciferon and then Magmadar. Coincidence? I think not. Again, I am of the view that Zul'Gurub is a deliberate trial by fire for guilds who are preparing to enter Molten Core for the first time. The fights in Zul'Gurub are endurance fights, every single last one of them. They are a lot longer than you are used to. That in itself is very important. Not only that, but it does introduce to you the concept of phases. Now, before, say, take for blind example, Balnazar and the Crusader, Grand Crusader in Strat Scarlet, you haven't come up against anything major with phased boss fights yet. Now, the Grand Crusader has 2 phases, but that's not really a massive problem, because in reality, the phase change is mostly cosmetic. He doesn't do anything particularly different. He has a few extra abilities, but nothing worth worrying about. Now, in a phase change in Zul'Gurub, you've got to be worried. If you're going in there for the first time and you encounter a phase change, then you need to be concerned. Why? Because the focus of the fight will totally change. You may have to change from, say, a healing cycle to just spamming flash heal. You may have to change the number of melee attackers you're using. You may have to start using counter spells, kicks, pummels, and all that kind of thing at the right time to counter certain abilities. You may have aggro problems, such as with the spider. Many things you have to be worried about and aware of. Very good preparation for Molten Core, since as you are well aware there are several bosses in Molten Core who are based around phases, most notably Major Domo and Ragnaros. Scary stuff for the uninitiated. Is Zul'Gurub the initiation that people really need? Are you better prepared for going into Molten Core if you've done some of Zul'Gurub beforehand? I would argue yes, not only because you can get some exceedingly good equipment which will be of great benefit to you in high-end instances, but you get the experience. And I don't mean in-game experience, I mean actual experience. You experience the idea of a boss fight, which is a really long, difficult endurance battle, in which there are not a lot of margins for error. So in that sense, I think it's a success. Now, what about the design of the actual instance itself? As I've said before, you effectively have Hakkar slap bang in the middle of the instance. After a few pulls, you will be able to see Hakkar in the distance, but you will not be able to reach him. More accurately, you can reach him, but you'll get killed if you try, because you haven't killed these aspects yet. So what you've effectively got is an unlockable big boss, which you have to get to by killing the little ones. What does that parallel to? Oh, I wonder. What could that be very similar to? Oh yes, Molten Core. In order to summon Major Domo, you have to douse the fire runes. In order to summon Ragnaros, you have to defeat Major Domo. There is no other way of getting those two bosses. You either do that or you don't get it. The exact same with Hakkar. Kill the aspects or get killed. It's an unlockable end boss. Now, that is a reasonable game mechanic. I agree with that. One, it stops people simply farming the really, really fat loots off the end boss. And two, it gives a sense of progress. I think it's a very sensible way of doing things. It's a good, solid design element. What about the rest of the design element? What about the instance itself? In my opinion, one of the best designed instances in the game, if not the best. It looks great. When you go into that instance, certainly for the first time, you will be impressed, because it looks fantastic. A lot of effort has been put into making it look like a living, breathing area. Let's face it, Molten Core does not look like that. Molten Core looks like your stereotypical underground cave of lava death. And because that's exactly what it is. It is a stereotypical underground cave of lava death. That's what you expect from Molten Core. Zul'Gurub, you get a more lively experience. Something better to look at. It's certainly not as drab. It feels like it's being lived in. When I go into Molten Core, I do wonder, why are these surges running up and down? What is the purpose of these dogs? Why are the ancient core hounds here, and what do they feed on? Why are they still alive? You'd have thought they'd be a little bit scrawny by now, having only bits of rock and lava to feed on. Why are the surges look like they've drank too much coffee and Red Bull? What are the bosses doing there, other than poncing around? Don't they get a little bit bored? Whereas if you go into Zul'Gurub, it looks like it's alive. You see them dancing, training, patrolling in a logical manner. The whole place looks and feels alive. And that's a good thing, folks. The instance design is pretty solid. The good thing, and the thing that I most approve of in that instance, is the fact that you can go for any boss. Except for Hakkar, obviously. You can go for any boss you like. You have a choice. You'll have to cut through trash mobs to get it, but you have a choice. Whereas, in, say, Molten Core, it would be silly to go for another boss without killing Magmadar. Why? Because if you don't kill Magmadar, you'll get ancient core hounds respawning on your head every 16 to 18 minutes. And that, I can tell you from experience, is not pleasant. No, it isn't. So, what Blizzard have done is they've given you a choice. If you don't feel that you can take down a boss, go and try another one, because you can. Whereas, if you can't take down Magmadar, you might as well not bother attempting Gehenna, because you'll have a core hound spawn on top of you while you're fighting. Heck, even when you're trying to clear out the area. And let's face it, that does take a little while. It's a good design element. So it seems to me so far that they put a heck of a lot of effort into this instance. And it bodes well for future content. I have not had the chance to smack my way through bits of Anchorage, and indeed I would prefer not to. I don't want to ruin the surprise for when we actually go in there for the first time on live, which will hopefully, not promising you anything, do not quote me on this, will be Tuesday. The test servers have gone down. It would be reasonable to assume that the patch is very close indeed. So, what is Zul'Gurub? Zul'Gurub is a 20-man casual raid instance that is a trial by fire for those who wish to attempt Molten Core. And if you are from a guild that hasn't attempted Molten Core yet, and you're just trying to get into the endgame content, may I strongly suggest you attempt that instance. Not only is it exceedingly challenging, it's a lot of fun, there's some great loot, and it's good prep for what is to come. It's a solid instance. It's well designed. And I, for one, most certainly approve. However, there's one last thing I'd like to address. Hakkar himself is the most dullest fight I've ever had the misfortune to experience. Oh, God. The thing about Hakkar is that if all the aspects are down and you can get up to his altar, you could quite feasibly kill him with one warrior and 19 healers. Because you don't actually have to damage him. No, you don't. It's true. I'm not going to spoil it for those who haven't done the Hakkar fight yet. But needless to say, Hakkar is more adept at killing himself than you are at killing him. While it's an interesting game mechanic, it is the worst fight I have ever had the misfortune to do. It is incredibly dull. Lordy, lordy, it is dull. And one thing that really bothered me about the Hakkar fight, a total lack of dialogue. One phrase was all it was. Whereas, Ragnaros constantly taunts you throughout the fight and you feel like, oh god, Ragnaros is going to kill me. Whereas Hakkar is like, silly sort of orange snake bird thing is hitting my main tank. Woo. I'm thrilled by this. I don't care. Hakkar should be more insulting. Ugh. Speaking of insulting, I think it's time for the much maligned, much despised, and much hated
Ask the Murloc.
Dear Murloc, how do I heal myself using bandages? If I right-click on a bandage, I get an icon to point to the person to bandage, but how do I use this on myself? Am I missing something obvious?
Courage, fear, foolish mortals, for it is I, the Murloc. Come to enter your homes uninvited and make a mess of your display cabinets. I'm not sure who told you that the bandages could be used on yourself, but they were mistaken. No doubt lied to you in an attempt to get you to waste your bandages. Valuable bandages, yes. Bandages can in fact only be used on other players, never on yourself. Very similar to a priest heal, which can only be used on other people. I'm afraid there is absolutely no way to heal your class, because you are alliance and as such immune to all heals. I would suggest that you find a mage and get him to give you dampened magic, and then hope for the best. Ha ha!
Ask the Murloc.
Dear Murloc, so what's the average age of WoW players? I think that only children play Horde LOL.
Oh, that's an easy question. The average age of WoW players is the sum of the age of every player combined divided by the number of players there are. The Murloc is a mathematical genius, and you should bow before his might. Horde players, LOL. The tipping and gibberings of a deluded alliance imbecile. Yeah, no doubt you've been Paladin, the WoW equivalent to the shy, quiet kid at school that ends up stabbing his teacher in the eye with an orange crayon. Nah, Paladins do make the Murloc sick. They're a blight to efficiency. In the time it takes to flay one Paladin, you could have half a dozen mages piled up in a heap of delicious ready-to-eat corpses. Ha ha!
Ask the Murloc.
Dear Murloc. Hi. Where can I report ninja looting?
yes, the Murloc can assist in your dilemma. Just call the Murloc's Fat Loot Reclamation Service right now. For a modest fee, payable in gold, essence of air, or fine Chardonnay, the Murloc will hunt down the snivelling worm that stole your elite epics and roast them in an oven with a dash of seasoning, and then serve to you and your guildmates as a delicious feast of morbid enjoyment. If you eat the Ninja Looter for 10 seconds or more, you will become well-fed and gain plus 10 self-satisfaction. The Murloc's Fat Loot Reclamation Service and Catering Company. Great for parties. Ha ha!
Ask the Murloc.